Hey everyone, I have a special treat for you tonight. We have Chris from CAC Sports. Chris, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm
So
very
Chris,
excited
you
that we were able to finally make this happen.
yeah, me too. So you have another channel. You have two channels.
I have two
One's a
chats. Yeah,
card channel and one's a wine channel. Tell me
correct.
about the wine channel.
So the wine channel, so it's called Drinking It In, as you can see in the label. We got the CAC Sports for the sports cards, Drinking It In for the wine. I started both of them. I mean, it was around the COVID time, right? So they've both been in existence for about 4 years, and I just try to. I mean, wine has always been one of those passions of mine where I'm pretty much obsessed with it, and I just try to put out just simple videos that are fun, so that people are not intimidated by wine, because I think that's the biggest thing that the wine industry gets wrong, right? And it's just like, so I put a lot of stuff out there that's basic in nature, so people get comfortable, and and then we can always go into more detailed topics, and raid my cellar and drink some older wines, but that stuff is not really where I tend to focus, and that goes for even my my daily life. Like, I'm not focusing on buying 1984 Bordeaux wines, right? I'm drinking the stuff that maybe I bought a year ago that's been down in my card/wine closet.
So you recommended a bottle of wine for us to drink tonight.
Yes,
I guess we have slightly different. You
slightly different.
tell me about the wine you recommended for this evening.
Yeah, so I gave John a list of a bunch of things that maybe were available in his Charleston area, Total Wine, and we both ended up with a Barbera, right? So a Barbera, yours is from Asti, mine is from Alba. They're right next door to each other in Italy. Barberas are really just like fun, fruity, friendly Italian wines, that people don't really understand. And so when you can get some really good Barbera for $20 to $30, and you kind of fall in love with them. And so that's why I thought this would be a good one. Just again, it's Thursday night, a nice a nice simple red wine that is underrated, and also I feel like 5 years from now we're going to be talking about Barbera in a bit of a different light. Like, it'll be more popular, and it's because people are going to catch on.
That's nice. You know, I have moved to where I drink Italians almost exclusively. I just love them. And the great thing about Italian wines is, if you're trying to spend $600 on an Italian bottle of wine, in my opinion, you're probably getting ripped off. You don't have to spend a lot of money on an Italian
No.
red. I am a big fan of Montepulcianos and Tuscans and Chianti and those types of wines, but I've never had this one, so I'm excited to try it.
No, I'm glad. I'm glad you were able to secure a bottle. Um, and yeah, like you mentioned Chianti, like Chianti Classico, that specific wine region to me is like my secret weapon for people at a steakhouse. If you're tired of spending $200 on a Napa Cabernet, you can get a Chianti Classico that's probably less than $100, and in the restaurant, right? For like
Yeah, yeah,
$30
right.
retail, and it's just perfect.
Yeah, I went to a restaurant in Raleigh. I was up there and reached out to Sports Card Dad. His wife
Okay.
is from Italy. And I said, I want to go to an Italian restaurant, but I don't want the one the Southerners recommend, because they recommend Italian restaurants down here, and I go, and to me, it's not Italian food.
Yeah.
And she recommended a few, and I picked this one. It's called Cafe Luna, and it's a small little place, very crowded, lots of people eating in there. And they brought us their house Chianti for $20, and it was fantastic. I couldn't believe I had to pay $20. I mean, such a cheap meal and cheap wine, nice atmosphere, and the food was fantastic.
Yeah. Sometimes that's exactly what it gives it's the most surprising thing at times, where you're not
Yes.
expecting it, and you're just like, why do you go crazy like trying to find these treasure hunt for these trophy bottles, and it's just not necessary. And
Yeah, there's so many.
that's not how I roll, right? It's like I don't go. I'm not looking. There are plenty of channels and plenty of folks out there who they've got amazing wine collections, and I used to kind of aspire to that, but there was never really a lot of enjoyment for me that I got from that. Kind of looking at an expensive bottle of wine sitting in the cellar, right?
Yeah, and you really don't drink it, right? You just collect it.
At that point, I feel like sometimes you would be scared almost to
Yeah.
open up some of those bottles.
Yeah, so my favorite restaurant in the whole world is Burn's Steakhouse in Tampa. I go fairly often. Like,
oh, really?
I mean, I'm not in Tampa, so I try to get there as often as I can. And they have, I don't know if they still do, but at one time when I started going there, they had the largest private wine collection in
that
the
wine
country.
list is insane.
Yeah, they have that wine cellar underneath, and then they had a warehouse with like 10,000 more bottles, and they go back to the 1700s in that wine cellar. And so for fun, one day I ordered a bottle from like I think it was 1978, and I popped it open, and I was letting it breathe, and the waiter's like, "Don't let it breathe," and he's like, "You got to drink it right away." And so so I did, and because it'll spoil once the air hits it pretty quickly, it'll sour or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't taste like our modern wine. I mean, I could probably get a $4 bottle of Jacob's Creek that's better.
Yeah. Yeah.
My grandfather used to make homemade wine. My and my grandfather died when my dad was like 5 or 6 years old. So I certainly never knew him. My dad barely knew him. And my grandmother had unearthed a bottle of his wine. And one Christmas, she brought it out, and we all got to drink it. And she popped it open, and we had a glass, and that first glass was phenomenal. It was so good.
Oh, really?
And then once the air hit it, it turned to vinegar pretty quickly.
Pretty
like
soon,
we got one glass out of it.
Yeah, because there were no preservatives involved in that at all.
Yeah, but it was so good at first. So are we going to pour this and try it out?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Pour a glass, and hopefully you like that. And that was now that particular producer that you have, Vietti, which they do a lot of wine, and all of their labels are beautiful, right? And so, like, if anybody sees Vietti, whether it's Barolo, Barbera, Nebbiolo, the Nebbiolo Perbacco, whatever it is, you can just buy it nice and with confidence.
Yeah. I've always been a wine fan. My wife, man, I call her a wino. She drinks so much of it. That's all she drinks is wine.
Mm-hmm.
But she loves her wine. She's grown a little more particular over the years because I've always been into wine, mostly for dinner. Like I have 2 glasses with dinner, then switch to something else. I have a hard time, getting drunk on wine. It makes me sick. I guess it's just the sugar in it, probably. But she would go to these wineries with a friend, and they would get all looped up drinking the local wine, in Erie, PA, or wherever. Next thing I know, I have a case of it coming home, and she'd pop it open. I'd be like, "This is terrible. Why would you buy a case?" And when she tasted it at home, it didn't taste the way it did when she was all looped up at the winery, right?
Yeah, no, it's the atmosphere too. Like at home, we drink a lot of bubbles here, and my wife loves the the bubbles, whether that's cava or prosecco or champagne or anything. And then when it comes to like red wine, she likes the something that that's big and fruity and not too earthy, right? So sometimes Italian wines can kind of rub her the wrong way, because they get earthy and savory and a little dirty sometimes. That's not like where she's much more into that silky smooth California style, probably more so than which again, which I love too. But like, I know it's funny when every now and then when we're out, we'll order like, oh, I don't know what red wine. I'm like, it'll probably be this one, but let's order this and this. And I take, one sip, and I'm like, yeah, that's going to be yours. And she's like, oh yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah, my wife loves Prosecco, and we'll have that on special occasions. But we both love Veuve, man. I love that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll take that over Dom any day.
It's yeah,
The Dom's
you
just a
can't.
little too dry for me.
Yeah, there's we did a high end champagne tasting once that was at this wine store in Waltham, Massachusetts, where they put on these tastings that were amazing. This one you had to pay a little freight for, but most of the wines, like, you know, I wasn't wowed by, and it was, you know, we were tasting all of the high end stuff, but we came to a Krug bottle, and I don't know if you've ever had Krug. I
No.
think it's King Cuvée, and it's just the most insanely delicious sparkling wine you'll ever have.
Yeah.
And like, but you like Dom Perignon, Perrier, whatever, just throw it aside. The Krug stuff was just hands down, just sent it to the showers.
Yeah, I haven't had. I mean, I've heard of Krug, but I'm not. I don't think I've ever tried it.
Yeah, no, I
But
hadn't before that night either. So
yeah, I mean, I really love Veuve, man. That's it's just so smooth. And my my wife's cousin had a wine store for a while, and she used to carry all kind of great stuff. Her husband was a sommelier.
okay, yeah,
Am I pronouncing that correctly?
yeah, sommelier, close enough.
Yeah, I when I say sommelier, then people pronounce the R, and so I never know.
Yeah.
It's like Béarnaise sauce. Is it Béarnaise or Béarnaise?
That one, I think it's Bernays.
Yeah, I always want to say Béarnaise.
Are you only
Anyway,
you
anyway, so he knew all about the wines and everything. So they stocked the best of the best. It was nice to go there. She gave us special deals on a bunch of bottles to take home.
That's cool.
All right, I'm going to try this.
Yeah. All right. I'll see. I haven't sipped this one yet either, but.
Yeah, that's a little different than the Italians I'm used to.
How so? Is it fruitier? Is it mine is a little more mine is very tart, which was kind of neat. I don't know if I was expecting that as much. It was like really tart. It's almost got like some cranberry vibes.
Yes, yes, I agree. It's kind of tart, fruity, and dry at the same time.
Yeah, give it 10 minutes and
Yeah, I
might
think it needs to
probably
breathe a
change
little. You
too.
know, most Italian wines need 20 minutes. Most Italian wines,
Yeah.
you want to you. I don't know why, but they need a little time to breathe.
Yeah, no, the oxygen makes a difference, and like you can take a sip and then 10 minutes later take another sip. It's different, and then go another 10
Yeah,
minutes. Yeah, so
yeah, for sure. I mean, you really like 20 minutes. Like I
it's
use
right.
wine in my sauce, and I always pop it open and let it sit, for a while, because if you put it in the sauce and it's sour and it's not right, it'll change the whole dynamic of my sauce. I
Oh,
made that mistake one time,
okay.
so I learned to let it breathe. Yeah, and
I
while
won't
we do
tell
that,
you. I won't tell you that the wine I add into my tomato sauce is the Holland House Marsala wine.
uh,
I didn't just say that. Nobody knows.
yeah, I make the old school sauce, with
Yeah.
and I always put a dry Italian red in there,
Sure.
usually a Chianti, and you can't have anything that has too much flavor or is odd,
Yeah, you don't
because
want it to
it'll
overpower.
change the whole dynamic
Yeah, sure.
of the sauce. So I wanted to talk hockey tonight while we drink
Yes.
our wine. Hockey is a sport that, at least the channels that I follow, and don't, you just don't hear a whole lot about it. A
Yeah.
lot of us have hockey cards. We don't show a lot of them. I used to be a huge hockey fan back in the early 2000s. I was certainly a hockey fan in the 90s with my Pittsburgh Penguins. I'm
Yeah.
from Pittsburgh, Penguins
You had
fan.
a nice run there.
Yeah. Now, in the early 2000s, the Penguins stunk. That was, when they were going through their rebuilding before Mario took it over and turned it around. But I watched all the games, man. I got the NHL package, and I would sit there. I watch all the early games, then I watch all the late games, and I was really into it. I knew all the players back then, uh, and I got really into that the Olympics. Was that 2002 or three? That Olympics. You remember?
Probably two, because I feel like it has to be an even year.
Okay, well,
But yeah,
whatever.
somewhere in the
Matt
early 2000s,
Sundin was
close enough.
playing, and I think Canada won it that year.
Mm.
But it was just a great Olympic hockey experience to watch. I watched every game, and it was such fans were so into that because they didn't have it was a faster pace of play. They didn't have they could they didn't have the two-line
Yeah,
pass rule,
the
and you
less
could just run
offside.
down there and you could
Mm.
send that puck the whole way down in front of the net. And so then everybody wanted rule changes in the NHL. Now I really haven't followed it since that time, just here and there, like when my Penguins were in the Stanley Cup in 08 and '09 against
Okay.
Detroit, and then again in what was it, 16, 17, or 15, 16,
Yeah, it sounds
um,
all right.
somewhere in there. Uh, so what happened with that? The NHL actually did change that rule to allow that pass, did they not?
Yeah, I feel like they tinkered around with some of the rules, and they were even, I think the Olympic rink is even bigger. Like they were toying with some of those ideas too. But I don't think any of the I don't recall them actually, or maybe they removed that the two line pass restriction for a little bit, but it didn't seem to make a difference in the game. And I think they kind of walked it back. They were trying to do a bunch of things to make the game faster, up the scoring, because as you got into the late 90s and 2000s, like all the games were so low scoring, and the game was kind of boring. And to be honest, for me, being that I'm an Islander fan, I was spoiled when I was 10 years old, and it's been a dark 40 years. I kind of stepped away from hockey in the early 2000s because I was just like, I can't even watch the game. But I think as the players just got so much faster, over the last 10, 15 years, it brought the game back without needing, really needing rule changes to manipulate, or try to force it.
See, I'm the opposite of you. I don't think a hockey game should be 9-7. Like
It shouldn't be 9-7.
a goal was so
But
infrequent
yeah.
that it was exciting when a goal happened. It's like the NFL. Like a touchdown used to be so exciting, and now you need 3 or 4 of them to win the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think it was also, for me, it wasn't that the scoring necessarily disappeared. It was just the pace of play that there was almost, it was very much station to station type of
Yes.
flow on the ice that like it caused me to lose some interest, right? I think the creativity that is in there now, and the creativity that used to be back in the 80s, where there was a lot more orchestration and passing and just all that. It's really that's where it ends up for me making the game so exciting.
Yeah, I mean, back in back then, in the Mario Lemieux days and so
Yeah.
forth, when you had a power play, that was a big deal because
Mm.
games were 2-0, 3-1, 3-2,
Yeah.
4-3, and having that power play because scoring was so infrequent really gave you a huge chance to score.
Yeah.
And one of the things that used to frustrate me with the strategy back then is when they would always dump that puck, down the length of the ice behind the net and then just go get it. And it used to frustrate me because it just seemed pointless. Like it just seemed to make the game drag on. I mean,
Yeah.
the offensive team that rarely got the puck back, but they were always just trying to keep it in the other end.
Yeah. 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 I remember it was the 1991 Penguins, that their power play was literally like something I've just never seen before, never will see since. And
Yep.
it was so like being on the other side of the ice, because the Islanders, they actually, they were somewhat competitive around the late 80s and early 90s for a little bit. But seeing the Lemieux and Yager and Stevens and and I was just like, it was terrorizing. It
Yeah.
was terrifying to watch.
Lemieux was unbelievable on the
Yes,
power
he was
play, and he had a whole bunch of shorthanded goals too.
Yeah, no, he was unstoppable. It was
Yeah.
absolutely unstoppable.
He was insane. But you know, the Islanders in recent years have been our nemesis. It's like
Well,
when we
yeah,
play them in the playoffs, in the Stanley Cup playoffs, they either take us the whole way, like down to the last seconds, or they beat us. What was it, last year or 2 years ago? No, last year we missed
yeah.
the
It's been
playoffs.
the
2 years ago,
yeah.
and they should not have beaten us.
Yeah, there's we've had the Penguins number for a little while, and I think Tristan Jarry, the goalie, is
Yes.
he definitely does not want to see the Islanders ever. He seems to really be at his worst when they play the Islanders for whatever reason. But you know, it was nice to turn the tables for a little bit because, you know, like I said, I grew up on Long Island when the Islanders won the 4 Stanley Cups. That's what really got me into hockey. But that was, you know, I was like between 9 and 13 years old in that point, and you know, it's been a rough 40 years at this point. But,
Yeah.
they finally made some moves and, you know, and really, you know, had some success over the last like 5 years, but the last 2 to 3 years for them has just been, it's maddening to even follow the team because they're just they don't do anything well anymore, and I think it might be time to tear it down. But
I love my vintage Islander cards, though.
oh yeah,
They're,
yeah,
they're great. So,
yeah.
who's your favorite player?
Here's an oversized Brian Trottier.
Oh, nice.
That's from the the Sportscasters 1978. So he was my favorite player when I was growing up. I think now, you know, now it's funny. On the Islanders, it's probably Brock Nelson, who is, you know, he's a very unassuming guy, like one of the most reliable. Here's a rookie patch auto of Brock Nelson. Let's try not to get the glare in there. That's a beautiful one from
Nice.
2013. But he's, you know, he'll score 30 goals every year. When he's on the ice, you're at ease. You know, you feel like, you know, nothing's going to happen. Nothing bad's going to happen when he's on the ice. I'm nervous that he's going to get traded, and which would actually be really good for him because nobody really knows any of the Islander players. I don't know. Sometimes they wonder, like, even if the NHL, the other players on the other teams even know who they're playing. They go to Long Island, they're like, "What? Who's this guy?" But I feel like if he got traded to a contender, like he would end up taking the NHL by storm. Everybody would fall in love with him. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, those sportscaster cards, just so you know, and anybody watching, those were made from 1976 to 1979.
Yes.
They were multiple years. I remember going to my aunt's house when I was a little kid and visiting my cousins, and they had those out back at that time. And they came with like a box with
Yes.
dividers
Mm-hmm.
that you stored them in.
Yeah, they used to
And
have little sections. Yeah.
yeah, and they were like little encyclopedias. You would read the back and you could learn about the players, about the
Mm-hmm.
sport, about the
Yeah.
history, and you could store them and organize them.
I actually
Pretty
have.
cool.
I think I have one of the older sets in the garage. You know that I don't have the box with the dividers, but you know, I just now it's a big pile. But yeah, it would cover everything from, like, you know, motocross to, you know, equestrian sports, and it was crazy.
They're amazing. I have a pretty large collection of them now. I never had them growing up, but I started getting them, and I really appreciate them. I gained a whole new appreciation. You know, when I was collecting in my younger years, I didn't really take those seriously as cards.
Yeah.
But some of them are scarce. There's ones from Finland. I think they make them from Italy. Like they have overseas ones. I
Yeah.
think Canada, and some of those are scarce. And they have a lot of the old players. Like I have a signed Red Grange one, and all kind of baseball, hockey. My Pittsburgh Steelers from back in the day, like Tony Dorsett when he was with Pitt.
Mm-hmm.
Those kinds of things, and they're just awesome.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun.
But you know, I have not seen one of those books with the divider, the box with the dividers, since then. You know,
Yeah.
just
No.
seeing them back then, I never see them for sale or anything. Now that we're talking about it, I wouldn't mind picking one up.
Yeah, that's right. Definitely worth seeking out.
Oh yeah, definitely needed to breathe a little.
Just a little time. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just
interesting. This is
less tart. But the Barberas tend to just be kind of loaded with that red berry fruit, and not too earthy. Like some of
yeah.
them, and that's where I think where I say friendly and just like not as crowd pleasing as like a Cabernet, a full Cabernet Sauvignon is going to be, but kind of from an Italian perspective, they're easy to like.
My go-to Cabernet that I can find just about anywhere, and I love it, is Simi. I love their cab.
Yeah, yeah, they do it. They for a big brand, they do really good work, right? Because some
Yeah,
of
I'm not sure I
the
had any of their others, but that
yeah.
one.
Mm-hmm.
You know what was a wine that I learned from a friend, um, my friend's father, uh, Fat Bastard. Did you ever have a Fat Bastard?
I way back when I had it once when it was like all the rage. I don't remember it though.
They don't make that anymore?
I know. I think they do. I think it's a Shiraz. Like it's an Australian company. For some reason, I'm remembering a Fat Bastard Shiraz.
I think
Uh,
no, this was red wine. It was
yeah.
I thought it was an English wine,
Oh, I don't know.
wasn't it?
I'm not sure.
Maybe not, maybe not.
We'll have to do a follow up on it.
But I thought that yeah, I'll have to research it. I thought in England they called a full-bodied wine a Fat Bastard, and that's why
That
they
could
named it that.
that could be where
Where the name came
the
from, at
idea
least.
and the marketing came from. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Bad.
yeah. I can't remember the region. Hey, I wanted to show you. I had to pick up a card of this guy. He is the first player in hockey history to have both the same first and last name, Ivan.
Oh, it's Ivan on the Avalanche. I almost picked him up on our fantasy team. I was like, because he was playing on the first line with McKinnon for like 2 days, and then that didn't work out.
Yeah, he's
But
this
yeah,
is his
Ivan.
CFL card. It's a cool card too.
Yeah.
So I had to pick one of those up, and I had to pick up Michael Bunning, who came to the Penguins. He's playing pretty well for the Pens.
He's bounced around a bit, but he definitely has he's got some talent.
Yeah,
There's
I
a
think
reason
he
why
may have
people
found
always
he
try
may
to put him.
have.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say he may have found a home. Sometimes a player goes to the right team and has a resurgence or a coming out.
Yeah. I mean, the environment matters a lot, and it more so than especially with some of those guys who don't quite figure things out until like later on in their careers, or I mean later on. Sometimes Capo Caco on the Rangers just got traded to Seattle. He was number 2 pick in the draft 4 years ago. He never really panned out in New York, but who knows? Maybe he'll all of a sudden take Seattle by storm. But sometimes, like, even though you say, well, this guy's been around for so long, it's like he's 23 years old. Maybe he's still going to figure it out.
Yeah, some guys I think get better with age. Like I think of Jeff Carter as being one of those hockey players.
Oh,
It's just like just shows up, just solid, consistent,
and kills the
I know
Islanders.
he played well with the Penguins, I thought.
Yeah, no, he was good. He had a 10-year stretch where again you could always rely on him for like 25 or 30 goals.
Yeah, well, Bunting. I mean, if you can't learn from Sidney Crosby, Malkin, Brian Rust, Chris Letang, if you can't learn from those guys, then I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, no, it might be time to find another career.
Yeah. Do you have one of these? I have 2 of them, and I'll tell you why. It's the rookie showdown with Sidney Crosby and Ovechkin.
I
and
don't.
It's 3D.
Yeah,
one's Sidney and
kind of
so
has that sports flicks feel.
Yeah. Well, I got 2 of them. I thought the card was so cool, and here's what's cool about it. So when you just hold them straight up, one shows Ovechkin and one shows Crosby. They're not the same angle.
No, that's interesting.
So having them together is awesome. It's like you don't even have to tilt them.
No, that is pretty cool. Because you would think they all have the same sort of finish and like the angle would be the same across the board.
I don't know. I had ordered 2 because they were so cheap back in the day. And when you order these cards, you don't always know the condition or whatever. So when they're like real cheap cards, I think they were like $5 at the time or something. Maybe a little bit more. But I went ahead and ordered 2. I love the card so much. And I didn't even know this. This was an accidental discovery, but I'm so excited. I got two now.
No, that's a fun one.
And I got the Sports Illustrated for Kids, Crosby and Ovechkin rookies.
Yeah.
I started getting the Sports Illustrated for Kids magazines for the cards, but I had stopped at this period when they came out.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was collecting in a big way and watching hockey and subscribing to Beckett hockey. And I remember when Ovechkin was coming up, he was so highly touted, and everybody was just waiting for him to come onto the scene. And then Russia delayed him. They wouldn't let him come. And we had to wait a year until he came over. And now that he's about to break the goals record, imagine if he would have come 1 year earlier.
Yeah, I didn't remember the delay there.
Yeah, he was delayed. I think it had to do with his age.
Yeah, I mean, when the players come over from Russia, there's all kinds of different red tape and that they have to work through. I always remember the McGillney story, which just kind of, at least for me, I got educated on more recently, where he was, where they basically had to sneak him out of Russia in order for him to get across and start playing in the NHL. And I had no idea, like the peril that existed for him to actually take that risk and that step, and somehow he's still not in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, well,
not just
Russia,
because of that, but like he was amazing goal scorer for 10, 15 years.
Yeah, he was good. Russia for hockey is kind of like Cuba for baseball, where they have to sneak out in order to play.
Very, very much so.
Yeah. I really fell in love with this guy when I started watching a few years back, and that's Kucherov.
Yeah,
I got this signed puck card.
Those are fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a cool card.
No, he does stuff with he does, like, he's one of those guys that it looks like he's moving in slow motion and everybody is around him, but he's always in the right spot, and he's always just like, doing things where you're just like, I don't understand how that just happened.
Yeah, he's a big guy. He reminds me a little bit of Lemieux. Lemieux was that big center that just he could score on you, but he would set everybody up. His passes were insane. And I remember at the end of his career, the Penguins had nobody around him. No one. Yager left. Everybody, the Wrecking Ball, Mark Recchi left. Everybody left. He had no one to pass to, and he would put these perfect passes in front of the net, and they would screw it up. They had such an awful team, and I always wonder how many points he could have had if he had a team around him, because just beautiful passes wasted over and over and over again. It's hard to watch.
Well, and if he didn't have his health issues, like we would be talking about, him owning all the records. I firmly believe that. And as amazing as Gretzky was, like if he had an extra 5, if Lemieux had an extra 5 healthy seasons, who knows where his numbers were.
He was the greatest hockey player I've personally watched. Hands down. There's no question in my mind.
Yeah, no.
I don't know if you know this, but he is second all time in goals per games played. And he is second all time in assists per games played. Number one on the goal score is Mike Bossy, the great goal scorer.
There we go.
And Wayne Gretzky's like 7th on that list. And then Wayne Gretzky's number 1 in assists all time.
Yeah.
Per games played.
Per game. That
second.
Makes sense. Yeah.
But that's how good he was. He's number 2 per game played in goals and assists.
That's pretty insane when you think about it.
Yeah. And what else is insane, and a lot of people don't realize this, there were only 3 players in a 21-year span that won the Art Ross Trophy. Did you know that?
Yes, at some level.
It was Wayne Gretzky, Lemieux, and Yager. For 21 years, those are the only 3 players that won the Art Ross. That's insane.
It's amazing, the dominance, and it's sort of like when you go back into the like the 60s and the 70s. Like if you were poor Brad Park, he came in second in like the Norris Trophy 8 out of 10 years because Bobby Orr just had a lock on it, and there was just nothing you could do.
But Brad Park broke a record, didn't he? Didn't he break a record? What was it? Goals for defensemen?
Oh, possibly. I don't know. I might have to go to the reference, check that out.
Yeah.
I mean,
there was a
he had amazing numbers, so it wouldn't surprise me. But I was just like, if he didn't have Orr in that same era, there would have been so much more attention on him because he was incredible.
Yeah, my favorite hockey player besides Lemieux was one of them. But I just loved him. Was one of the great goal scoring defensemen, and that was Paul Coffey.
Yeah,
when he was with the Penguins, he used to take that puck coast to coast and score as a defenseman. Chris Letang scores a good bit for a defenseman. I'm a big fan of his too, but Paul Coffey, man, I just loved him. And watching him and Lemieux and Yager, I mean, that was special.
Oh,
and
really?
we had Ron Francis for a while. And, of course, the Wrecking Ball, Mark Recchi, who I mentioned earlier. He went to Philadelphia and broke our hearts because they're like our big nemesis. And he played so well for Philadelphia, and especially when they played the Penguins.
I was thinking that Noah Dobson here, I'm trying to figure out how to work that's not bad. So, like, he's the Islanders' top defenseman, and he started kind of getting to a point a couple of years ago where I was like, okay, this guy's going to be Norris Trophy finalist, and he's kind of fallen off the last couple of years, but he's got a lot of runway ahead of him to have a beautiful career.
There was a scorer that I loved. He was really the only guy I had to root for in the early 2000s on those bad Penguin teams. But he came over, I think, from the Rangers. That was Alexei Kovalev. You remember him?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, he was a good scorer.
He bounced around to so many teams, even though he was always kind of putting the puck in the net. For some reason, he kept getting moved. But yeah,
I would watch the games just to watch him.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, he was good.
Yeah.
So what do you have there? What are you buying up now?
So I haven't. So I've taken a bit of a hiatus in terms of purchasing lately. This was the last card I bought, which was several months ago. This is the Ken Dryden rookie card.
Oh, nice.
1971. I mean, those are just so beautiful. This card set.
Yes, I love that set. I was so excited when I got my Ken Dryden card. People don't realize he dominated the 70s.
Oh yeah, no.
What did he win? Six Stanley Cups as a goalie?
There were a bunch. That was another thing. It was like the Canadians during that time, during the 70s, until the Islanders finally got into the, started into their four, and that turned into the, to the Oilers kind of passing the baton. It was like the Canadians just won every year in the 70s.
Yeah.
So the last, I don't typically buy the Young Guns cards, right? Because I just think, because they're so overproduced and overpriced. But these are Young Guns from 2005, where Upper Deck did retro Young Guns. So this is a Peter Forsberg, right? Which, I mean, he started in 1990, right? This is his, but he never had this is his Young Guns card. Here's a Steve Yzerman, right? And then a Gordie Howe. Yeah, so it's kind of fun.
Some all-time greats right there.
Yeah, so it was fun that they did those in the Young Guns, I guess, motif, if you will. I like when card companies do that, where they not only they throw back the design, but they also include some players. I guess another thing in the sort of in that vein, right, is this is 2008 O-Pee-Chee, where they did the retro of the 1979, 1980, the Gretzky rookie. This is actually Steven Stamkos rookie that happened to be in that variation, but they also did, they did a Gretzky card, which I thought was kind of fun.
Yeah.
In that, but the cards that I bought most recently, are I think from a friend of yours, Scott, with his drawings.
Oh yeah. Reindeer Studios, shout out.
Reindeer Studios. Yes. This is the Jackie
He's an
Robinson.
amazing artist.
These things are
Amazing.
like, and that, you know, he and when, I mean, I think this might have been the first one that I saw, the Nolan Ryan with that uniform from like 82 to 84 or whatever, that just I couldn't get enough of. So I find that I keep ordering these off of Etsy. They're the cards I'm most into right now.
I have a small box filled with several of his cards.
Yeah. Yeah, he does an amazing job, and his videos are just so much fun to watch. Like,
Yeah.
and I follow a few channels where there are people who like paint different things. Like some people, there's one channel, I forget the guy's name, but he paints like realistic versions of things where it looks like, you know, he paints a banana and it looks like you just pull it right off.
Yeah. Those artists are amazing to me.
There's something soothing about like watching that come together in like hyper speed. And when Scott releases a video like that, I'm just like, all right, I'm in.
Yeah, in my young days, I was a marketing consultant in the travel industry, and I got hired by the Michener Museum in Doylestown, PA, out in Bucks County. And I went there, and in touring the museum, there was an artist who painted like that, and that was the exhibit at the time I was there. And he painted stuff, and it would have shelves on it, and it would have like kids' toys on the shelves, and it looked like you could just reach out and grab it. It was so insane to me. I don't know how a human being has that kind of talent.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, very insane to me. So back in the early 2000s, you know, aside from my Penguins, my biggest, well, even before the early 2000s, I became a huge fan of Joe Sakic. Man, I loved Joe Sakic. I loved Matt Sundin, and who's the other one? Madonna, Mike Madonna.
Madonna, sure.
Love watching him. And when Sakic went to Colorado, there was him and Chris Drury and Patrick Waugh. I mean, that was a really good team. That was a good team. Oh, they had was Forsberg on that team?
Forsberg
was
no,
Thornton.
No.
No?
No, Forsberg was in Colorado for a bit.
Forsberg.
Yeah, he was.
Okay.
He was part of that team that was making all their runs.
Yeah, that was a great team.
Sakic never gets his. I don't think he gets enough due in terms of the history of like, and the numbers that he put up and the teams that he led. He's a quiet guy, right? And like, so he didn't make any noise. So I don't think he drew any attention to himself.
I thought I had his cards out here. That's what I was looking for. They're in here. I have a nice signed. This is one of my favorite sets. I wanted to show you.
I don't know how you keep track of all your stuff though. Or
maybe it's hard.
Maybe you don't.
But the 90, I do. I mean, I have everything organized by set. By if it's old vintage and I can't fill a whole box with the set, I'll do it by era.
Yeah.
But most of them are by set. I have near sets from, you know, T206 on.
Yeah, yeah.
But this is one of my favorite hockey card sets. I used to sit at the dining room table in my parents' house when I was growing up, and I would open these by the box. And I put together like 2 complete sets. I just loved these. It was when I first got into hockey.
What year?
And I just loved this set. 91. Score. Yeah. Score. Yeah. And it had the Ed Belfour rookie.
Mm-hmm.
This was the what was this? Traded, or what do they call that? They call it.
I think it was traded.
It says RT.
Called it traded.
RT on the label. I don't know how that was distributed. I bought that after the fact. But here is the Canadian version of Wayne Gretzky. Just a great image there.
I remember that.
They had several different Lemieux. It's a Yager's rookie card, right?
Yeah.
And some others.
Well, the pro set that, you know, even though it was right around the time where everybody was just printing and printing and printing.
Yeah.
New sets were coming out. The pro set cards were just like, I remember. Yeah. They were so much fun to open and collect. And
it's a damn shame that they overproduced these cards, because they're some of the nicest cards ever made.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite baseball card sets of all time is a 1987 Topps. And, you know, lots of people love it, but
Yeah.
they'll just never be worth anything. Here's a Matt Sundin signed one.
Oh, that's cool.
And then I have this Matt Sundin, but it's an error card, and the back is upside down,
Oh,
and it has Dave Chikow. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Chizowski. It has a different player,
oh, all right. That's
so it's upside down and a totally different player. I don't know how the hell you print
how
a
that
card like
happens
that.
in the factory, right?
But that's that's a rare, not a rare, a error card.
Yes.
And then of course I have, this premier set had the Yager and Madonna rookie cards.
Mm-hmm.
These were must-haves when I was growing up.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, the idea of I was trying to think of like the for me 80. You mentioned 87 tops in baseball. I was also, I collected a ton of hockey back then too, but like that 86 and 87 was just across all sports, no matter what. It was like I was just buying it all.
Yeah. How about the 89 tops and O-Pee-Chee? These were sweet.
Yeah, those are cool.
I have the O-Pee-Chee set in a binder, but this is an autographed Mario Lemieux highlights card.
Yeah,
And then, of course, it has my man's rookie card, Joe Sakic.
Of course, yep.
Yeah. And I have the complete O-Pee-Chee. This one's off center, but this is one I pulled from a pack myself. Okay. So this is the one that's staying in my collection.
You were able to get O-Pee-Chee cards in where you were?
This is Topps.
Oh, that's Topps.
So I bought the O-Pee-Chee set. I bought the O-Pee-Chee set. I have a bunch of Topps, but I wanted the O-Pee-Chee. Yeah. Back I don't know, for hockey, like having Topps is like second fiddle. Like you're slumming it. You need O-Pee-Chee. And it used to be the total opposite for baseball. Yeah. But now, like I've always loved O-Pee-Chee cards for baseball. Mm-hmm. And I've always recognized that they're far more scarce. And now the industry's catching on. Now you have to pay up for O-Pee-Chees.
Yeah, a little bit. There was speaking of O-Pee-Chee, right? You have let's see, these guys like in what I always liked, well, not always like, what I've grown to like was, I remember distinctly back in 1981, 82, 83, right, where I mean hockey didn't really get a ton of card exposure, right? And it was like there was like 100 and something cards in the set, so you always had the same few players. But then in 82, 83, and 83, 84, Topps was like, yeah, no, we're not producing anything. So there were like no hockey cards around, and you had like the 82, 83 O-Pee-Chee. Yeah. And then the 83, 84. And I'm always drawn to these guys because there was nothing else. There was nothing else available at that time. And it was just so, for me, it was like rare to actually, I think one of the card stores back when I was growing up on Long Island, they had, they'd always have like a box or two of the O-Pee-Chee packs, and I buy one every now and then. And it was always kind of so special to get somebody of significance in that, because it was like there were no other cards. Those two. Yeah.
Was it 81 that was Yari Curry's rookie?
Yes, 81, 82.
That's a fantastic set. It has the Paul Coffey rookie. Mm-hmm. It has a beautiful Mike Bossy, and that's the one that has the in-action cards, right? Or was that the following year? I'm drawing a little blank.
That year, and then they have actions in 82, 83, and 83, 84.
Yeah, fantastic. And I love the set. I love that set. That set. The Wayne Gretzky is fantastic in that set too. That's his third year card.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. That's one of my favorite Gretzky cards. And then the Steve Yzerman rookie card year with the little circle.
Yeah.
It was also Chris Chelios's rookie was in there. Yeah. That's a great looking set.
That's a beautiful set. And that's the same design on football that year too. And that's just a gorgeous set too. Like the Marino, the Dickerson rookie, Elway that year. But this is the in action in 82, 83 for Gretzky.
Yeah. But there was the other in action was more of was almost like a photo. It took up way more of the card.
Yeah, there was the design around the outside was very very thin. right? So that
Yeah, those
sure took
cards
up
are
a ton of the
fabulous
card.
looking.
Yeah.
I don't have them near me, or I'd show them.
No, I was looking.
Chris, I have an enormous hockey collection
Yeah.
and a large vintage hockey collection. You've seen it. We did a live one other time, but
Yeah.
I just don't show it that often, and I'm not that educated on it like I
Well,
am with my
yeah.
baseball and football cards.
And I feel, and it's, if I mean, it's certainly not worth showing if you're looking for views.
That's true. Nobody seems to want to look at hockey. I
No,
mean,
nobody's
it's a very
people.
select
It really
group.
is. It's, you're either, I find that you're either like a rabid hockey fan or you have no interest in the sport. Now, the Bedard craze has definitely, brought people into hockey, or at least in the hockey card world, but it's very much from that angle of like thinking that, okay, I'm going to buy this card and it's going to be something that I can retire with, because he's the next Connor McDavid and whatnot. And, but the the velocity at which these things came out and people graded them, and they're just, it was just like, I've never seen anything like it. And just the numbers, like a month into that card being released, they're already like 3,000 cards graded or something. I was like, how is this like, there's no way that this is a good idea to buy. If you're looking for that angle.
Yeah, I went out of my way when he played the Penguins for the first time, man. I was excited. Like, that was one of those. There aren't too many times where I get like that excited for a game.
Was
like,
that
I
his
remember
first game where he did the face off with Crosby?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to get to that. But that was one of those games, like the first time Yao Ming played against Shaq. Like,
Sure.
I went out of my way. That was like, get the popcorn and let's watch. And I felt the same way with Jeremy Ling in the NBA when he came on the scene and was having that fantastic
Yeah, he had that run.
rookie season. When he went up against LeBron, I mean, he did not disappoint. He played very well. And so I was all gung-ho for this Connor versus Crosby. And I was laughing because he did not win a face-off until like late in the third period or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, welcome to the NHL.
Yeah, here you go.
You're going up against one of the greatest players of all time. He did not win a face-off for the first two periods. It was funny.
Now he's having a rough year, but
he looks like he has some talent, but he's a very small guy.
He doesn't have a lot of guys around him either. Like they improved from last year, but what I was just going to say is they just played almost a back-to-back against the Islanders the last weekend, and Bedard had like 5 points in 2 games or something like that. So I feel like either that's going to propel him forward, or he's just going to hope he plays the Islanders more, because they.
Well, he looks like he's a talented guy. I think maybe he'll have some success like St. Louis, right? He was a small guy.
Yeah.
And he was real fast. I remember watching him back in the day.
Oh yeah, certainly. He was. Yeah, that he could skate. He could definitely skate.
Now, what do you think about? I mean, this guy came up, Lafreniere, and man, they were touting him as the next coming. And I watched several games his rookie season, and he did nothing. How's he doing now?
He's doing a lot better, but he's not like. Again, it's sort of like the Bedard thing. Like, everybody throws around the generational talent. Of course, as an Islander fan,
that's overused, right?
It's it's definitely overused.
And sometimes it takes guys a few years to develop.
Yes, and he's like the last couple of years, he's become a very good player. Like, but he's is he the number one top of the draft generational talent? No, but he's definitely he seems to be improving every year, and he's even during the playoffs. I think it was last year he really was hitting stride.
Yeah, that's good. It reminded me he could end up being like this guy who was also, I failed to mention, this was the other, aside from Yager, there were a couple others, but this was the big rookie card in the 90-91 score set, and that was Eric Lindros.
Of course.
And Eric Lindros was the next coming. Now, he was, for collectors and so forth, he was a little bit of a bust as a rookie, but I mean, he had a good career. He was a tough guy.
He had a great
career. Was a good hockey player.
Yeah.
A little injury prone. But I mean, he wasn't like, I don't know, Wayne Gretzky from day one, we'll say, but he was a good hockey player.
Yeah, but he had that like, and he had the size, he had that extra size, and he had like his hands were just so soft and smooth, like the way so he could do things with the puck in terms of like setting up his teammates and scoring goals too. He was amazing.
Yeah.
He just had all
I
those
mean, you could
instinctions
see why they thought he was the next coming.
yeah,
I mean, the guy
yeah,
had talent out the wazoo.
yeah. He didn't do him any. He didn't do himself any favors for popularity when he was, you know, all the drama before he even stepped on the ice. But
Yeah.
you know, at that point in time, you know,
He was fun to watch, man.
Quebec wasn't a great place to be, so I can understand why he didn't necessarily want to go there.
Yeah. Here's a guy that I didn't watch him early in his career, but man, is he having a great year this year. That's Krill.
Oh yeah, he's amazing. He's definitely turned it up a notch this year.
Yeah, so this isn't a guy that was amazing from day one, but he's developed, right? He's what's third year? Third year?
Yeah, he came on pretty his rookie year he was pretty damn good. I think
Was he?
because he started off again, came over from Russia, and he wasn't like a teenager, right? So he kind of snuck up on people, I think, a little bit.
He's having an amazing season.
Yeah. Minnesota has a lot of talent, but for some reason they just don't win games. I don't understand. I mean, unless you have, you know, ESPN Plus or on, nobody's getting a chance to see Kirill play.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the NHL is trying to do so much to, you know, grow the game. Oh, is that going on into?
You're not drinking with me, man. I never trust anybody that doesn't drink with me.
Oh, I'm there. I won't drink Jack and Cokes with you, though, right?
No.
Well, so
this is what I drink when I'm being sophisticated and having a nice filet mignon or something.
Yeah.
Jack and Coke's what I drink when, you know, I'm out with the boys and partying.
Yeah, physically. So I had a couple of experiences with Jack Daniels when I was younger, so that's part of it. And also now I used to drink a lot of whiskey, you know, and really I was really into it for a period of time until it started. I started feeling like crap the next day, so I just really don't.
Yeah, that happens. And then some people can't handle brown liquor.
Yeah,
I used to joke around. I had a friend that couldn't handle brown liquor, and he would get like ridiculous. And I would always joke around, and I said, "There's only ever been 3 people I ever threw out of my house, and all 3 were him." And when he was drinking Jack with me. Yeah, some people just can't handle brown liquor, so you have to know what you can handle.
Yeah, absolutely.
And some people get angry on it, but me, it's the total opposite. I get happy. I want to party with the world. I make all kind of plans, and then I wake up the next morning and regret them. Like I invite people over for breakfast at 6 a.m. and I wake up and stuff like that.
There were a few times I had to fact check some things with one of my coworkers who didn't drink at all, and you know, one of the guys, we had gone out. We were just hanging out at the hotel bar for, you know, we met up with a few guys, and the next day, you know, a couple of these guys are saying a few things to me like, oh yeah, well, you hate so and so or whatever. I'm like how do they even know this, right? And they're like, oh, you mentioned it last night when we started talking about so and so. I'm like, I did not. I would never say that. And I looked at my colleague. I'm like, did I say that? He's like, mm-hmm. Like,
yeah, this one day I invited everybody over for breakfast, and I had no recollection, and I'm sleeping. And when I was younger, I had to sleep in. Like I couldn't get up to save my life. Like I would hit that snooze button 12 times. My mom went out and bought me this alarm clock, and it was this stupid like Panda, and it had this loud sound, and it would play. It would go dun 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 dun. Wake up! Like it was really loud. And after about 2 weeks, I got so used to it, I would sleep right through it. And I'd have friends stay over, and they'd be like, "Turn that off," and I wouldn't even hear it.
What is that?
Like, so I wake up in the morning. My wife wakes me up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and she's like, "You need to get up and make breakfast." I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about? I don't eat breakfast." And she's like, "You don't remember? You invited 20 people over here last night." And I couldn't believe it. They all showed up. I couldn't
And they
believe it. I
showed
had to
up
get up and
on
make breakfast.
time.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
all showed up.
The one time where you don't want people on time like that.
Yeah, it was before work, like before we went to work. The good old days, though, you know.
Yeah.
Now I get up at 7:30, whether I want to or not.
Well, we have a somewhat new kitten, right? I mean, he's a year old now, and he makes sure that we're up by 5 o'clock. And yeah.
Yeah, I'm babysitting a dog, and the damn thing is on a schedule where it goes out at 6:30 in the morning,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah, you got to get up.
the
You don't
the
have
fir-
no
the
choice.
first night it decided it was changing that to 4:30 in the morning. So it woke me up at 4:30. I took it out, and man, I could not go back to sleep. That was a long day.
Yeah, I'm not a great sleeper in general. So like if
Yeah,
he wakes me up in the middle of the night, I'm like I pray that I can get back to sleep. Because it
yeah. I
sometimes.
took in two strays, and they both
Yeah,
sleep with me. And the one is jealous, so when the other one comes up, he'll be like
yeah,
nipping at her, and then so she ends up sleeping at my feet. And then when he leaves, she comes up and curls up with me. And
yeah.
I never know. It's like roulette. I never know which one I'm going to wake up with curled in my arm
That's funny.
because it just depends. If my one goes out carousing, he's always getting
Yeah,
into
yeah.
fights and stuff. He's an alpha cat,
And you could
and
just have, and sometimes they have nice calm nights, and other times they're just
he comes
ran
home
on.
and he won't get out of bed. Like he won't get up for breakfast, and he'll just sleep for hours. And I know he was in a fight. He's like exhausted. The other day he was limping because when he gets into a fight, they flop around on the cement. Like
Oh
it
yeah,
looks like
yeah.
it's crazy.
You're like,
So
"Huh?"
anyway, hey, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about because you and I are opposite on this, and I mean
Oh,
that's cool. I don't care one way or another, but you are really into PSA grading, right? And I am really not. Uh,
yeah.
so I don't know. I just wanted to pick your brain. I saw today there was a 1986 tops Ricky Henderson in a PSA 10 that sold for over $2,000. There was a 1975, what's his name? Doug Roberts. I mean, an absolute common player who
Yeah.
sold for $33,000. And I'm trying to make sense of it, man. I'm trying to make it make sense.
Sometimes you can't make sense of it. Like especially like uh, some of the higher grades at some of the vintage stuff. It just doesn't make sense. And I'm not talking like 1950s or whatever. Like I've seen 1977 Topps baseball like PSA 10s, and the numbers that people get for those are outrageous. And it's just I don't understand the disparity between the 10s and the 9s. I still don't. I still have
I
trouble.
don't either. It
No,
seems insane to me.
yeah, there's definitely like when the multiplier or whatever you want to call it is it seems to have gotten out of hand. And it just in some cases I do I understand it if it's supply demand thing and you literally have like 10 copies and because they're so rare in that like in 1975 George Brett I think it was, it's always kind of diamond cut because it was at like the top corner of the sheet.
Oh,
And
the 76.
76, okay.
Yeah, it's really tough to find centered.
It's insane. Yeah, like I remember I found one on eBay and I was like, oh my god, this is a 9. And I graded it, it was like it came back like a 6. And I was like, what happened here? But like it's become a lot harder. Like when COVID hit, right? I had all these cards like from my childhood. I was like, okay, let's play this game, right? And and then I just started, and I like the amount of shockingly, a lot of my cards were in amazing shape and really graded out very well. So then I started, as I was getting back into just the hobby in general, it was very easy to to buy decent cards, grade them, and sell them for for a profit. So I was doing that a lot, and I just kind of got into the whole the idea of grading for me was so new, right? Even though it had been around for maybe 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
Like the concept of again the Michael Jordan rookies that I had, and the Lemieux and the Gretzkys that I had carried around with me wherever I moved, right? The fact that you could, turn that into something, that you always thought you were going to, and, usually nothing ever worked out.
Yeah.
But it was like that type of thing. Like, it was like brand new. And I was like, wow, this is fun. And eventually it got to the point where I was doing a lot for 2-3 years. I was grading hundreds of cards almost every month with PSA, and it was purely, most of it was just a profit motive, except for, a lot of the Islander stuff that I have, or some of the other cards that, are just hockey cards I got into that, I can grade, but they don't have any value, right? But I was still grading them because I really liked the idea of having things slabbed. So an example of what I'm talking about here is like, this is these 1999 Be a Player. These inserts, right? So this is a sapphire, Wayne Gretzky. You have him in the Oilers, and then on the back, like where he was playing currently with the Rangers, numbered to 100, right? So I was like, anything that I was kind of collecting, I was going down that grading route, whether or not I was going to resell or not. I do like the fact that it provides a measure of the quality, but there are so many times where I get the card back from PSA and I'm just like,
well, what do you mean by quality?
Levels of
quality can mean a lot of different things.
Condition, right? Because you have in.
Oh, you mean with a high grade one?
Well, just in general, right? So like back in the day, right? If you were, so I remember, did you used to do like want lists? Like back in the day, like there were ads in the back of magazines, and you would literally send handwritten papers to people, being like, "These are cards that I want. Do you have any?" And they would send back, at least in this is what I'm send back the card, your letter, and be like, mark off the ones that I have, and here's the price, and it's VG or it's GD. Like those, like for me, it was GD, VG.
Yeah, right.
Like being able to translate those in a way that, in theory, is more organized, right? You're not really relying on some amateur's, opinion. Although you could argue that the graders are probably amateurs themselves, but like the like turning that scale into something that was, that is more, more official and easier to deal with. Like I like that idea.
Yeah, I get that. That's funny. We used to trade or whatever based on that, and but that's back when we cared about the card more than the flip or the holder it was in. We just cared about collecting the cards, and
I mean,
a lot of us wanted to put a set together, and there was no set registry. If you wanted to put a 1972 set together or a 66 set together, like the high numbers are tough to get, or 67 or whatever, and you're just happy to put the set together.
Side, top, bottom. Never even.
No, I never did either.
Entered my mind.
Now we're to the point where we're treating them like diamonds, right?
Yeah.
Like the dispersion between a 9 and a 10 is insane. And the thing is that people can't tell the difference between a 9 and a 10.
No.
Otherwise, they wouldn't get all these 9s back if they could, because they wouldn't send them in, because Raw is now selling for more than 9s, and PSA can't tell the difference either.
Yeah.
Because if they could, you could never crack and resubmit and get a 10 on a 9. You could never do that if PSA could tell the difference. So here's an example. Here's a card. I think it was selling in the 50,000 range.
You showed this the other day.
Yeah, I think it was selling in the 50,000 range during COVID. I am so pissed off that I never knew that. This would have been sold so damn fast. Your head would spin.
Yeah.
So now it's down. The VCP on it is 8,800. But a 9 is around, I haven't looked it up, but I'm assuming it's around $200.
The disparity.
And the fact that I can't tell the difference between a 9 and a 10, like what motivates people to pay thousands, sometimes tens of thousands more for that one grade that is completely subjective? And if you cracked it and sent it in, I could get a 9. I would never crack this out because next time
No.
I might get a 9 or an 8, right?
Have you ever
But
cracked a card
because
out
it's
of?
in this slab,
Yeah.
it
Have
goes
you
for thousands more.
have you ever cracked a card out of a slab?
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah,
You know, I
I've
got,
never done that. Never.
so let me tell you,
Never
I used
did
to
it.
be into grading. All my early cards from when I was a kid graded well. I had my 1959 Hank Aaron graded an 8. My the 59, I only sent a few in. My Yogi Berra got a 7. My Frank Robinson got a 7. My 56 Ted Williams got a 7, 7.5, I think.
That's amazing.
My 56 Jackie Robinson got a 6. My 67 Mickey Mantle got a 7. Like my cards graded well. Not one of them were altered. Not one of them got a real shitty grade. None of them came back fake.
Hmm.
Um, so I had a pretty good experience with my early grading. But man, I started to see what was happening, and I got turned off on them. I saw them. Uh, they were authenticating fake tops Willie Mays autograph cards that weren't even close. You have Kurt's card juice, and I see what was going on with that.
Yeah, that's
And the Evan Mathis thing with people with trimming all these cards and they're grading them. And I just started getting really turned off with them. And when I was in California years ago is when it started, and this was many years ago. So I'm not professing that this is the way it is now. But I was in California. I went out for dim sum in L.A. and we have a friend that lives out there. And I was outside, and they had one of those one of those newspaper things that you could take,
okay.
local
Yep.
newspaper. And I just opened it. I was joking with my wife, "Hey, I'm going to move out here or something. Let me see if what kind of jobs are here." And I saw an ad for PSA, and they were. It was an ad for card graders. No
No
experience
experience.
necessary. $13 an hour. And from that day on, I stopped sending these kids my money and my cards
You know.
because I,
Yeah.
I know so many people that claim, and most people don't take videos ahead of time, but
Mhm.
that the PSA their card comes back damaged with a corner ding that it didn't have or a crease that it didn't have, and I am petrified to send any old vintage rare cards to them.
Yeah, I
Um,
think. I mean, I think the experience over the last and so I should preface this where I haven't graded a card in almost a year now, right? So like I've kind of stopped. I don't have a PSA membership anymore, and part of it is I'm not really buying a lot that would need to be like where I would say, oh, I should be grading them. But I found that uh, I was waiting for PSA to really lower their prices because I don't understand how they're still getting the amount of cards that they're getting when you know that the majority of the people who are submitting are going to try to resell them, and they're like
well,
there's
that's why they're getting that many.
well
I
no
mean,
but
it's all a big flip now, and
but
I mean to have a card,
nobody's
2000.
making money. Nobody's making money flipping the
I don't
cards
know
now.
about that. I just told you about the sales of those two cards that are ridiculous. They're absurd.
Well, but that's a
You know
rare
how many?
scenario.
Listen, I can go on Craigslist right now, and there's probably 100 people with stacks of unopened 1986 boxes in their garage, and these people and the newer collectors, they don't realize this, that when you're looking at that pop report, there's a million cards out there that have
Mhm.
never been graded because they're a penny card, and you would never, most people aren't stupid enough to send them
Yeah.
in and pay money to grade them. But when this catches on and all these people decide that they're going to start sending in their 1986 cards and their common cards for
Mm.
grading, do you know how much the pop reports are going to go up? I have I have 1986 cards. They're pack fresh. Will they grade a 10? I don't know, but
No,
I'm willing to bet many of them will. And
not that easy.
it never crossed my mind to send in my 1980s cards for grading. Never even crossed my mind
I
until
think
until today when I saw that sale for that Ricky Henderson.
yeah, well, but that type. So, and I had a bunch of those scenarios with 80, 85 and 86, 85 football, right, the black borders, and 86 football with the green, the Jerry Rice rookie year, the green
Yeah,
with the basically the field behind it. Where I was looking at like what some of these cards sold for in a 10 or a 9, even a 9 in those areas. I was just like, I like some of the cards I have. They're gorgeous. They must be perfect. You know, I graded a whole boatload of those, and they're so hard. At least those particular years, so hard to get good grades on.
Yeah, that's
That
yes.
I think
And
86
86,
baseball,
and in all fairness, 86 tops is one of them.
yeah,
Because of the
86
black borders.
baseball is rough too because they got the black borders and whatnot. But I think the time to do that has passed. Where people would even consider it was 2021. The time, I think that time has passed. But where I was going with it before is like the volume of stuff that people are still grading that they're not able to turn into like an actual profit. I'm just surprised that there's still so much inventory coming onto the market, because I would have thought by now people realize it's not a good move.
Yeah.
And it's not like PSA has said, okay, you know what? Instead of us charging $19 a card, which is absurd, right? We're going to cut it. We're going to go down to $10 a card. It might make sense at that point, but like they're still at their like every now and then they do a special and whatnot. And the amount of cards that are out there, to me, it scares me for not so much the hobby per se, but people who are trying to do this, right? And they're just going to get so disillusioned because they're wasting a lot of their money on the grading. Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a lottery, right? Like you have that one card that people need for the registry, and there aren't a lot out there at the moment. Even if there might be 100, 5 years from now, there's none at the moment, and people are paying these ridiculous prices because they want to, flex on the registry.
So
you should take advantage of that, man. Like if you have those cards in 10, because I'm telling you right now,
I did.
There are, if you go onto Craigslist, there are garage after garage after garage of unopened material, like a million. I think, in all fairness,
looked on Craigslist. Maybe that's
more accurately. I think they produced 400,000 of every card.
Oh, certainly.
And 99% of those have never been graded.
Yeah.
Because nobody's dumb enough to open those unopened boxes and grade them all. It would cost you a fortune.
I'm always amazed at the number of cards, the 89 Upper Deck Griffey cards that have been graded, and the fact that it holds value with
Upper Deck admitted, a guy from Upper Deck admitted that they were still printing it the following year. It's the most printed card ever.
It's absurd.
It blows my mind. Before the pandemic, that card was $30 all day long for decades, right? And then the pandemic hits, and all of a sudden, now we have grading. So now if you have a 10, it's selling for some money. And if you can get it autographed, now it's selling for even more money. And I don't know, like the whole world's like turned upside down. But I think some of these people are going to get burned.
Absolutely.
And my advice right now would be, hey, if you can get those 10s, sell.
Yeah.
We are living in the most affluent society of all time. Mm-hmm. And there are people that have money to burn, and they spend $300 like you and I spend $3. I mean, 300,000 or 30,000. So take advantage of that. I mean,
can we discuss Mike Baker and that service?
I really don't want to because I'm drinking and
you're now loosened up. So we're going to talk a little Mike Baker. No, so I was looking at I saw some report out of like the Jordan 86 Fleer sold, a card sold for like $300,000 pretty recently. And I was like, well, that seems weird because that card is now under $200,000. Like, how is that even possible? And it was because it had the Mike Baker sticker. Yep. And I was like, and you can see it on the price chart. It's like, beep. And I'm like, how is that going? That there's no way that person is going to be happy with that purchase 5 years down the line. I just don't understand the premium from a Mike Baker's eye of grading the grader. It's just it's one thing.
It's absurd. Yeah. And I was watching a video, and I don't know the age of this person, but they were going Google because they had cards with Mike Baker stickers on. And I'm like, anybody that goes Google over that has to be newer to the hobby.
I think
You
so
know, they
too.
weren't
Probably.
around when back in the day, you know, he was like PSA's first employee. And that's when PSA graded the, you know, altered T206
Yeah.
Wagner, the
So
Gretzky Wagner.
the Gretzky
Then he
one.
started GAI. You can't give a GAI autograph away because nobody trusts them.
Hmm.
Everybody thinks they're fake. And all of a sudden, you're paying up. Like, it's unbelievable how the hobby regurgitates old bad actors. And I'm not
Well, I
saying
didn't
he
realize
is.
the
I
history
don't know
of.
what he did or did not do, but I do know that he did not have a good reputation back in the day. And
Okay.
now all of a sudden, and he's not the only one. There are lots of these old bad actors or who
Yeah.
were considered by many scammers
Hmm.
who are now idolized in the hobby. And
Interesting.
when somebody throws around a Mike Baker sticker and starts getting all Google over it, man, I get triggered because I'm like, people don't know the history of this
Yeah.
hobby. And
That
you
shit.
don't have eyes. You don't have eyes. You need to pay somebody to tell you if it's a nice example of a card.
It's one thing to get something
Like
great, but
it's
then have
insane.
the, yeah, like, does he really? No. It was sort of like, I mean, the PWCC started that when they put their sort of sticker on it, and I was actually selling a card through
Well,
them.
there you go. More scammers. They
They're
got
total
caught.
scammers,
They got
right?
caught getting PSA trimmed cards to
Hmm.
grade.
Hmm.
So there you go. You have these are the stickers that you are paying
That
up for.
people are paying extra,
Yeah.
putting extra value on. Yeah, that to me blows my mind, right? It's one thing for um, the grading, right? But you know,
I'll
it's
tell you a funny story. I just I wanted. I'm working on my 1948 Bowman set, and you know that's the 1948 Bowman set is like the '86 Fleer basketball, in that they hadn't made cards for so long, at least a mainstream set, that there's tons of rookies in it because they didn't have rookie cards all through the 40s, right?
yeah, yeah, sure.
Similar to the '86 basketball, where you have all these rookies even though they were in the
Hmm.
league for 4 years or
Yeah, yeah.
whatever. So there's just tons of rookies, and so I'm trying to get the last of the rookies. So I find this Phil Rizzuto, and it is just perfectly centered. It's a really sharp, and I can't even remember the grade on it. It's a 2.5 or I don't remember the grade, but just a really sharp card, right? For a good price. So I buy it. I get it in the mail, and I'm looking at the back, and it has a PWCC sticker of excellence on it, and I immediately got triggered. I'm like, I bought it because it's an exceptional card. I don't need PWCC to tell me that. Like, that's
Well,
why I bought it.
at least they so yeah, normally that would make someone
At
feel
least, I
good.
mean, they agreed with me, so I at least. But you know, I never even noticed that when I bought the card. I think it came
That's
from the.
surprising. Yeah.
In fact, I know it came from their vault, so they might not have stickered it until they sent it to me. Because the seller that I know I bought from, he said, "Hey, it's going to come from the PWCC vault."
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So he might.
So yeah, because I never saw it, but you know, in the modern hobby, it's funny. You pull these cards from packs. Now, granted, some of the new products, you know, it's not so easy to get tens, but it's way easier than the old days. And if you have a card in a nine, it's
Yeah.
complete shit. Like you could sell
Yeah,
a
the
raw one
prices
for
for
more.
raw cards versus nine, like you were saying
And
earlier,
this
it's
whole 10
amazing.
scale,
It's amazing.
where it's got to be 10 or nothing, or it's
Yeah.
junk.
Yep.
Just throw them away if it's not a 10. Like this is insane to me. Like
Yeah.
nobody collects cards anymore.
No.
Everybody invests.
No. Yeah, and
I
but
want.
also,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, but it's also harder to like even wrap your mind around quote collecting, right? Because you know, I look at something like, so this is an O-Pee-Chee Platinum. This is a Seismic Gold. Sorry, Kyle Connor, right? One of my favorite players in the AHL right now. Kyle Connor on the Winnipeg Jets. I'm still waiting for him to score 50 goals because I feel like every year it's going to be the year. This year actually might be the year, but like, so this is 4 years ago, 2020, where O-Pee-Chee had their standard sort of set of parallels, right? Seismic Gold and orange checkers and, you know, Emerald Surge, whatever. And now it's just like the things have gotten so out of hand. Like if you were to open, I don't for the box prices or anything like now is just ridiculous, right? I don't open anything, but the idea of collecting, it's like almost, I don't even know how you would go about it, because you know, is there a real checklist? You know, there's a checklist, and there's a parallel list, and there's this, and how you would even like pick what to collect. Like, to me, that's where like my brain would hurt. It's one of the, I mean, I don't really,
You know, I don't even try to keep up with modern. I just buy
you can't.
I collect modern, but I don't try to keep up with it. So the way I do it, because it's overwhelming, right?
Yeah.
The way I do it is I just buy the cards that look cool to me. I don't care if they're a rookie card. Like I love refractors, so I buy the refractors. But you know, I'm not paying thousands of dollars for a 10 to have a card that I really like. Like, I'd rather just, you know, I get a raw copy and I put it in these Mag Pros with my label on.
Those Mag Pros are really nice, though. They are sharp.
Well, they're so much clearer than the ugly, like the cloudy PSA stuff.
Yeah,
PSA. So PSA has these new holders that are thick inside, and they have like, it's like, let me get one.
I think I know the ones you're talking about.
Oh, they're awful. So let me tell you why they're awful. So they have basically an insert inside of them that's cloudy.
Okay.
So they have this insert, and then what happens is, because it's so bulky, all like 2 of the last 3 PSA cards I got move around in the holder because they're too thick.
Yeah.
And for this size card, look at the gaps. Like, they don't even have the right damn size. And another reason that, you know, I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, it has this cloudy thing here, and it's a big monstrosity of a holder inside the holder.
Yeah.
And these are the new ones. This is only the second one I got, but I mean, the fact that it moves around, I mean, can it damage over time? If it's sitting like it's sitting there, like can the edges get worn? Like I want to crack this out and keep it raw.
Yeah.
Because I mean, this defeats the whole purpose of grading a card if it can bounce around in a holder.
Well, I graded a lot of soccer stickers for a little while a few years ago, and it always, that's Monty. Oh, you see that little?
I saw a little glimpse
of
something.
Here. He's coming to say hi. And it always blew my mind that they just, like, they were so inconsistent with the sizing of the inserts, right? With those tiny stickers, right? Some of them were nice and tight and they had the proper, you know, sizing, and then others would have, like, you know, an extra inch on each side, and the thing was flying around. So I did a couple of grading, or maybe only one grading ours with CGC, and the plastic and the, you know, and their, what I would say is their quality. I think they do a much better job. So what is that?
Well, their holders are fantastic.
It's the reflection of my phone that is the problem here. Their holder is amazing. It's
amazing.
Really clear,
but are you going to pay for grading? Like, I love their holders, but am I going to pay for grading for a holder?
No. But
I mean, some people do. Some people do.
I guess so.
Because you know what they'll say? They'll say, well, I want to protect it. Well,
yeah,
a Mag Pro doesn't protect it.
Just the same.
You know, a One Touch doesn't protect it. This is actually, I don't want to take that because that's worth a lot of money apparently. But you can bend a PSA slab and crack it by your hand.
Oh yeah, I've never tried to do that.
We'll try to do it with a Mag Pro. I think it's harder.
Yeah.
So you know, the fact that you're protecting it, you know, the Baseball Hall of Fame has they have a card museum. They won't accept graded cards because they say that they don't know, you know, if the holder over time protects it or will damage it.
Well, that's interesting.
Did you know that?
No, I did not.
I mean, like these slabs you have, we all have. Yeah. They have no UV protection. I actually don't know if the Mag Pros do, but I know most of the other holders do. Like in the old days, we used those those screw downs.
Oh yeah, no, I had that's
or the one screw, like the Pro Mold, like they have
the
UV protection.
I used to have some of the ones with the 4 screws, like, and they were like,
yeah, I have those too. Well, let me tell you something. People make fun of those, and they'll say, "Oh, it damages your card."
It doesn't.
Do you know that the Mickey Mantle that sold for $12.5 million and got a SGC 9.5 was in one of those 4 screw downs for 30 years? It obviously did not damage the card.
That is
When
the
I pull a
story.
card out of those things, it's pristine. Like it keeps them perfect. In fact, if anything, it might actually work out the creases or the corners over time.
It doesn't damage the card. I had enough experience with that. It's not damaging the card.
And did you ever see a Kellogg's card in a PSA that's a 10 and cracked?
I've never seen it in person, but I think I've seen it on videos.
That happens a lot. I've seen lots of them.
Yeah.
And the problem is, see, I don't know. PSA, they don't know certain things. What triggers me, and another problem I have with them is how often they mislabel something. Like they've labeled the 1949 Leaf 1948 for years, and collectors think they're getting a rookie card. Collectors think they're getting a rookie card, and they ain't. They name the 47 Sports Star subject cards with the square. They label those Bond Bread, even though the Bond Bread are rounded corners, and they're 2 totally different sets. Stuff like that. It just kind of blows my mind how often they mislabel things.
Yeah, I've had a number of things come back from them where I didn't even realize it. And I was doing a reveal on the channel, and somebody's like, that's the wrong. They put the wrong label on that card, and I went back and looked at it. I'm like, like I better send them a note and get a response.
Somebody I saw this guy. He did a short, and he was like, "Oh, we have brand new information that the 1948 Leaf cards are actually 1949," and saying all this. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? We've known this for years. It's like all people know is what PSA puts on that damn label.
Yeah.
And if you look like at the back of 1949 Leaf cards, they all talk about the completed season of 1948. Well, how can you talk about a completed season and who won this award and who won the batting title in 1948 if it was made in 1948? Like PSA and any of the grading companies,
they'd have to do it fast in November.
They don't even do the basic research or read the back of a card. Now, I have this scarce Hannes Wagner. It's a W555. So they have always labeled these as 1907, and then they later updated it to 1909. Well, if you do just a little bit of research, you will find that Harry Kovaleski has a card in this set, and he's on Cincinnati. And Harry Kovaleski did not play for Cincinnati until 1910. So how are you labeling this 1907?
Yeah.
When he didn't play for, look at the checklist. Look at where the players are with. Like, I do this research, and you will find that a lot of this stuff is off. Like I have I'm working on a set 1927 W523, and people will say that, oh, this is from 1930 or this is this and that. Well, if you delve into the players in the set, it has a Walter Johnson. Walter Johnson stopped playing in 27. So what leads you to believe it's 29 or 30? Like, if anything, it might be a multi-year set, and they have different colored cards. So that makes sense. But don't tell me they weren't made in 27, because the set doesn't include any past players, and it has Walter Johnson in it. It's possible that they made it after Walter Johnson's playing career, but to me, unlikely. And you have no evidence. You have no proof whatsoever. So don't go changing the year. Now, it's possible and probably likely that they made these in multiple years. But my point is that PSA, SGC, none of these grading companies do this research.
Yeah.
They just slab it with what it's always been called, whether it's right or not. Just like the 49 Leaf. It's been 48 on all these slabs for generations.
The fallacies of the grading.
I'm telling you, it's a big deal because PSA controls the hobby, and they control the price. They control the price of your cards.
100%.
And to label something 1948 and say that it's Stan Musial's rookie card, it's Ralph Kiner's rookie card, it's Yogi Berra's rookie card, it ain't. And people paid up for that thinking they were buying rookie cards.
The rookie card thing's a bit too much.
All right, you know what? I've had enough to drink. It's probably time to go. Oh, I want to tell you one more thing. If you want to have a blast, if you want to have an absolute blast, get yourself a nice bottle of wine. Make sure you have at least 2 glasses. And then sit down and watch these newer collectors or modern collectors who are trying to flip vintage.
Okay.
Watch them. Watch them do grading reveals. It is freaking hilarious because they think that vintage cards are going to grade like modern cards. And they'll send in these cards and they're like all pissed off because they come back 4s and 3s and 5s. And they're so disappointed because to anybody who's new to the hobby or only collects modern, anything less than 10 is shit. And they can't deal with it. And it is absolutely hilarious to watch their reactions.
No, even you see people's reactions to when they get an 8 on a modern card.
Like, oh yeah, modern card. If they get a 9 or an 8, they're so mad. I'm going to crack and resubmit this, or it comes back minimum size. I'm sending this to SGC.
Yeah.
Well, you tell me how legitimate is grading if you can get an altered card, crack it out, and send it to a different grading company and get a grade. And how legitimate is grading if Kurt's Card Care, and this is factual, this is what he did, took a Satchel Paige that was graded altered, took it out of there, cracked it out, cleaned it, sent it back, and it got a 6. Now, when I hear stuff like this, and people wonder why I'm anti-grading, like it's a false sense of security. You think you're getting something, and you think there are experts looking at it, and we don't know because they don't disclose who their graders are. Is it a 23-year-old right out of college who never saw a card? Or is it somebody who's 40 and, a card expert? We don't know.
You don't know.
Because they don't disclose that.
Yeah.
But who are, I posted on my channel, what was it, yesterday, I think. It was a 1909 Colgan's chip, Ty Cobb. It had a pinhole in it. And it had 2 other major flaws. Not major flaws, minor flaws. But it had a pinhole in it. You could clearly see in the photo. It was in a PSA 9 holder.
That's crazy.
I saw, and I saved this. I'll never get rid of this picture. It was a 1959 Bob Gibson with a corner missing. And it was in a 4.5 holder. They gave it a 4.5. It had a corner missing. I saw Dizzy Dean. 1933 Tattoo Orbit. Now this thing had a corner that was so dinged it was almost missing, and they gave it a 6 or a 6.5. I saved these photos because it's just absurd. Some of the stuff I find.
That's egregious.
And it wouldn't matter. Everybody always says, "Well, it's human error." Well, no. I mean, over and over and over again, they are paid to be experts. There's no human error here. Do you know if there was human error by pilots at O'Hare Airport, there would be a plane crash every single day? Do you know that? If they were only 99.9% successful, there would be a plane crash every day.
I could buy that.
Yes. So, I mean, it's absurd to say that they're human, they make errors. When you're paying $7,000 for a 10 and $200 for a 9, no, you can't make errors. I'm sorry, it is not acceptable.
Yeah, the quality variation is too much. Like, and the whole minimum size thing is just like you get that back, they don't charge you for the card, so you just send it right back, and then it grades.
You send it, or you send it to SGC, and they grade
send it somewhere else, and
Well, Chris, I mean, when you started collecting, when you and I did, when you had a box of cards, they were not even. Tops, they did not come out of there the exact same size. So if you're doing that to a millimeter, some of them are going to be off. That doesn't mean that they're altered.
Some of my 86 Fleer basketball cards raw, and someone on eBay wanted to return one of my, because you're selling fake cards. I'm like, what are you talking about? And they showed me the size of the card right, relative to another card they had. And I was like, no, okay. I mean, send it back to me. I'm like, I know every single card that I'm selling was pack pulled and was literally in a box in my basement for 30 years. But you know what? If you don't want that, send it back. That's fine. And but like you're saying, there were size variations. They
Yes.
weren't as precise as
This is why I hate grading, because new and younger collectors don't know this. And all they know is what PSA will slab.
Sure. Yeah.
They don't know what a card feels like, because they only buy them slab.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're supposed to look like, feel like, smell like.
Smell like.
And they don't know that these cards were not all precise. You know, if you get into obscure cards like the 60s Bell brand potato chips or whatever, they come in different sizes, and oftentimes you might get an A on it, but that doesn't mean it didn't come out of the potato chips that.
Yeah.
And that triggers me, because you're deciding what they should be when this is how they came, and you've never seen one.
True.
And I don't understand how PSA can grade a card where there's only one graded. They've never seen it before. How the hell can they give it a number? They don't even know what they were supposed to look like. How do they know it's the right size?
You can go on.
If it's the only one ever graded, how do they know it's not trimmed? They've never seen it before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know what you're saying.
And with the hand cuts, it's just absurd. If it's not showing the dotted lines, they give it an A.
Yeah, I remember.
Well, we were taught in the first grade not to show cut within the dotted lines.
Absolutely.
You learn that in the first grade. Why aren't you
That's
giving
how
it
I
a
cut
break?
all of my Hostess and Drake's cards.
And again, this wouldn't matter, except they control the pricing in the hobby.
Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
So the difference between a Mickey Mantle bazooka in an A versus a 6 or a 7 or even a 4 or 5 could be hundreds, could be thousands of dollars.
Massive.
And you're saying that it's not the right size because it's cut in the lines instead of outside the lines? Now, it doesn't matter which preference you have. They should either get a grade or none of them get a grade, because they're hand cut. It's all subjective. Some people like the line, some people don't. But I don't understand why PSA gets to control that.
It's just how it is.
All right, I've had enough, Chris. Thank you for this wine. It was fantastic.
No, I'm glad. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad we got.
I'm glad you let me get fired up and rant a little bit.
I'm glad I triggered you a little bit. That was fun. All right.
Hey, I want to thank you for coming on, man. I love you. I appreciate you. I've been following you for a long time. You're one of my favorites.
Right back at you.
I was seeing you on Facebook doing your wine videos. I'm like, man, we got to have a wine and cards night.
I'm glad we did this. We'll make it a little more of a tradition.
Let's do it. Let's get our wives on next time.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay.
All right.
Fantastic.
Have a happy holidays.
Hey, you too.
All right.
Thanks for joining.
Bye.